In July of 1587, 3 small English ships dropped anchor off a low, sandy island on the edge of an unknown continent. On board were around 115 colonists, not just soldiers and sailors, but families, women, and children, sent by Sir Walter Raleigh to plant England's first permanent foothold in the New World. The place was called Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is today North Carolina. England was a latecomer to the Americas. Spain already controlled vast territories to the south, and Queen Elizabeth's court was desperate for a foothold of its own, a base for trade, for raiding Spanish treasure ships, and for the glory of empire. An earlier attempt to settle Roanoke, in 1585, had ended in failure and bitterness, with relations between the English and the local native peoples collapsing into violence. The colonists had abandoned the island and sailed home. Now, just 2 years later, a new group was trying again, this time led by an artist and mapmaker named John White, who was appointed governor of the colony. White brought with him his pregnant daughter, Eleanor Dare. And on the 18th of August, 1587, only weeks after they landed, Eleanor gave birth to a daughter named Virginia, the first English child ever born in the Americas. It should have been the beginning of a new English world. Instead, it was the start of one of the most haunting mysteries in all of history. Because within 3 years, every single one of those colonists, including baby Virginia Dare, would vanish completely, leaving behind almost nothing but a single, cryptic word carved into the bark of a tree. Almost from the moment they landed, the Roanoke colonists were in trouble. The site was poorly chosen, the soil difficult, and the timing disastrous. They had arrived too late in the year to plant proper crops. Worse, they inherited the hostility left behind by the previous expedition. Relations with most of the surrounding native peoples were tense or openly hostile, with one crucial exception, a tribe on nearby Croatoan Island, led by a man named Manteo, who had actually traveled to England and remained friendly to the settlers. Within weeks, it became clear the colony could not survive without more supplies from home. The colonists pleaded with Governor John White to sail back to England himself to argue their case and return with food, tools, and reinforcements. White did not want to go. Leaving meant abandoning his daughter and his newborn granddaughter on a dangerous shore. But the colonists insisted that only a leader of his standing could secure the help they needed. Reluctantly, he agreed, promising to return as quickly as he could, and the colonists agreed on a plan. If they were forced to leave Roanoke while he was gone, they would carve the name of their destination into a post or a tree. And if they left in distress, under attack, or in danger, they would add a carved cross as a signal. With that agreement in place, John White boarded a ship in late August 1587 and sailed for England, expecting to be back within a few months. He could not have imagined that it would be 3 long years before he set foot on Roanoke again, or what he would find waiting for him when he did. John White's quick supply run turned into a nightmare of delay. When he reached England, the entire country was bracing for war. The mighty Spanish Armada was preparing to invade, and Queen Elizabeth ordered every available ship to stay and defend the realm. White was trapped. He made desperate attempts to sail back with supplies, but ships were seized for the war effort, and one voyage he did manage was driven back by pirates and storms before it ever reached America. Year after agonizing year slipped away. It was not until August of 1593, full years after he had left, that John White finally landed once more on Roanoke Island. He came ashore on the very day, by coincidence, of his granddaughter Virginia Dare's 3rd birthday. What he found chilled him to the bone. The colony was deserted. The houses had been carefully taken down, not burned or smashed, as if the settlers had left in an organized way rather than fleeing an attack. There were no bodies. No graves. No signs of a battle. And there, carved into a wooden post of the abandoned fort, was a single word, Croatoan. On a nearby tree, the letters CRO had been cut as well. White's heart must have leapt, because this was exactly the message he had agreed upon. Croatoan was the friendly island to the south, home of Manteo's people. And crucially, there was no carved cross, no distress signal. By their own code, the colonists were telling him they had not been driven off in violence, but had moved, apparently of their own choice, to Croatoan. All White had to do now was sail a short distance south and find them. John White never reached Croatoan. As he prepared to sail the short distance to the island where he believed the colonists had gone, a violent storm swept in off the Atlantic. The weather was so fierce that his ships lost anchors and were nearly wrecked on the dangerous shoals that guard the Carolina coast. The sailors, exhausted, low on supplies, and terrified of the worsening season, refused to risk their lives any further. Against everything in his heart, White was overruled. The ships turned away from the coast and set sail back across the ocean toward England. He never saw his daughter or granddaughter again, and he never returned to America. With that storm, the trail went cold. The friendly clue carved into the post, Croatoan, was never followed up in time, and the colonists were swallowed by history. Over the centuries that followed, the fate of the lost colony became one of the great unsolved riddles of the New World, and the theories multiplied. The most hopeful and widely supported idea is the simplest one, that the colonists did exactly what the carving said, abandoning Roanoke and integrating with the Croatoan people on what is now Hatteras Island, or with other friendly tribes farther inland. Years later, English settlers at Jamestown heard second-hand reports of gray-eyed people living among native communities, and of survivors who built two-story houses of stone, tantalizing hints that some of the colonists, or their descendants, may have lived on. Other theories are darker, that they were killed by hostile tribes, or died of disease and starvation, or were lost trying to sail home in a small craft. But no definitive proof of any single fate has ever been found. More than 400 years later, the lost colony of Roanoke still refuses to give up its secret. But modern archaeology has begun, slowly, to pry open the mystery. On Hatteras Island, the historic Croatoan excavations have uncovered English objects from the right period mingled with Native American artifacts, exactly the kind of mixing one would expect if surviving colonists had been absorbed into the local community. Further inland, at a location researchers call Site X, near where two rivers meet, archaeologists have found fragments of distinctive English pottery, hinting that at least some of the settlers may have split off and moved into the interior. The emerging picture suggests there may not be one single answer at all. The colonists may have divided into smaller groups, some heading to Croatoan, others moving inland, each meeting a different fate, the colony dissolving into the landscape rather than dying in one dramatic moment. If that is true, then the lost colony was never truly lost. Its people may have survived for years, even generations, woven into the native nations of the Carolina coast, their English blood and stories quietly carried forward by the very peoples the empire had come to conquer. We may never know for certain what became of Virginia Dare, the first English child of the Americas, or the families who carved that final word into the post before they walked away. But Roanoke endures as a powerful reminder that history is full of doors that close before we can look through them. An entire community of men, women, and children stepped off the edge of the known world and left us nothing but a single word, carved in wood, pointing toward an answer we have spent 4 centuries trying to reach.